I am an everyday athlete.
I am an everyday athlete.
I am an everyday athlete.
Good morning, everyone. This is Jarrett Basson with Mark McCain, and you're listening to Everyday Athlete, a podcast devoted to bringing you the amazing stories behind the lives of day-to-day CrossFit athletes like yourself. And today we have Mr. Chris Dreier. Welcome, Mr. Dreier. How are you?
I am great. Thanks for having me today.
Fantastic. I always like to start off and really just let you kind of tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? Are you from here originally?
We moved here when I was about 1 year old. So I would say, yes, I'm from here. We grew up in Edgewood, went to Hinsdale, Dixie. So lived in Edgewood for, I guess my entire childhood.
Yeah. Went
to Murray State. When I graduated Murray State, moved to Memphis for a couple of years. Moved to Orlando, lived there for about a year and a half.
I forgot about that.
Then moved to Charleston, South Carolina for about three and a half years. And then I met my wife when I was back here visiting family. So I moved here and we'll be married 11 years this September.
Wow.
I heard Charleston's really nice. Is it?
If I had never met my wife, I'd still be living there.
Oh yeah.
It's a special place.
It is really, really beautiful.
It is.
I also have not heard amazing things about Memphis.
This is a recorded show. I'm not going to disparage. Memphis has got a lot of neat places, neat culture.
And barbecue.
Barbecue, yes. I am a good tour guide for barbecue in Memphis.
Oh.
So
I'm getting married. It's always good. I think my bachelor party needs to be based around food.
Yes.
That's really just what it is.
Memphis would be a dangerous place for a bachelor party. All my friends were getting married when I lived in Memphis. We had a lot of visitors.
Yeah.
I like Tennessee. I'll just throw that out there. My sister lives outside Nashville, which is beautiful. But I've never been to Memphis personally, but I've just heard a couple of times,
two completely different towns.
Yeah. Okay.
Nashville and Memphis.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Where were you born originally?
St. Louis, just outside St. Louis. Well, I was born in St. Louis County Hospital.
Yeah, and family just moved here for, Dad moved here for job, Mom moved here for job.
Dad moved here for job.
Yeah.
Yep.
Boom.
Yeah, it's weird how you see those trails where people kind of end up in certain places, and then funny how you kind of end up back here visiting.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, for as long as we've lived here, because, Northern Kentucky is a bubble.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So everybody knows everybody, and, I married into a family. I think I was, when you counted first cousins, I was number 96 or something like that on one side of the family.
Wow.
And there's 5 of us in my family. I think at our wedding we had 10 family members.
Yeah.
And that was counting my brothers or my sisters and stuff like that.
Where'd you go to college at?
Murray State.
Murray State, that's right. You just said that.
Murray State.
Is that in?
It is. It's down by Paducah, like by where Aaron's from.
Okay.
And so it's in Murray, Kentucky. So you go all the way down southwest corner and then come back along the Tennessee line, maybe 30, 45 minutes.
Yeah.
What's their nickname?
They're the Racers.
The Racers. I knew they had something cool.
If you follow college basketball, people usually know what Murray State is.
They went almost undefeated not too long ago. Or they won undefeated in the regular season, I felt like. I could be wrong.
No, you're right. So the 4 years, say 4.5 years I was there, they never lost at home.
Wow.
So Duke lost one season, the beginning of one season when they lost. Murray State had the longest running home winning streak. Then they built their new arena and
That's
they lost,
impressive.
and it was kind of terrible.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting. So you said you were visiting family, and that's how you met your wife. How did that all go down? I'm sure there's a good story behind it.
It is a good story, and I've gotten good at this story. So, a friend of mine, we were going out. I did just come home. I was going to graduate school. I was working, going to graduate school at night, and had a break in school. So I come home. A friend and I go out. Were you guys around when Tropicana was down at Newport in the Levee?
Yep.
Jeff Ruby's.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They
And
had
That's the whole-
a teen night that I would go visit pretty
yeah,
frequently.
exactly.
Teen night.
You'd be a
It's
teen
actually
night.
funny you mention that. That's actually the whole reason I moved to Cincinnati.
Tropicana.
Tropicana. I bet. A girl my wife worked with that knew my mom. My mom actually knew who my wife, like, knew the girl that would become my wife, and had mentioned her several times. We literally walk in the place. The girl that I knew growing up comes up and says, "Oh, you need to meet Janelle." And I'm like, "Who's Janelle?"
Yeah.
And my wife's very interesting, awesome person. Literally, I see our friend dragging her. And she's
Dragging
like,
over.
"Oh yeah," and she comes over and I meet her, and and that just goes to show I'm incredibly fortunate to be married to the woman that I am. And so, she was very cordial, very nice. She's about as nice as, person you're going to meet. And I ran into her like the next night or the night before or the night after. She's like, great. Yeah. Yeah. I met you.
Yeah.
And this is before social media and anything like that.
Sure.
So, I ended up calling her work after I'd gone back to Charleston to like get her number or whatever. Yeah. The stalker that I might be. But she agreed to give me her phone number, and I called her. We talked for a few weeks. I came home that Labor Day weekend, so it was like August. It's like Labor Day weekend's coming up. We went out that Friday and Saturday, and that's 13 years ago.
Wow.
And we've been together ever since.
So how'd that work with, how far along was before you said, like, I'm moving back kind of thing? Because obviously you have a job down there.
Sure. So, I always kind of wanted to come back.
Yeah.
But, Charleston's was a special place.
Yeah.
It was just a lot of fun. It was good. But I was also single, and the job I had, I worked for the same people each one of those cities that I moved.
Right.
And I knew it'd probably come to an end at some point. And I don't know, I was coming back.
Yeah. Yeah. You were to come back eventually anyway.
I would have anyway. And she was the reason I came back.
Yeah.
At the time I did. So.
And now you have 2 children, correct?
We do.
So just dropped them off at school before
Dropped
you got
him off
here.
school before he came here. It was, so Caleb is 9, just turned 9, going into the 3rd grade. And Amelia will be 8. She just started the 2nd grade, 15 months apart.
Wow.
What you guys have to look forward to.
Yeah.
The breaks.
The cool thing that I think we've seen a lot with people here that have kids are, I think we posted a pretty cool video yesterday of the baby handoff. I don't know if you got to see that, Mark, with Jen and Matt handing the baby off on a partner workout. You see people start to bring their kids up and their families up in inside the gym atmosphere, but B, just promoting a healthy lifestyle. And I think that was for you kind of went through a transition of you were into CrossFit, you kind of fell out of CrossFit, you came back almost in a very, like, I'm going to kick my butt and be as competitive as possible, to I think we've got another transition now where it's like, I'm just here to be healthy and be here for my family.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did you initially get started in the gym? What's your athletic background?
Oh, I played every sport. I played a sport a season growing up since the age I was 5.
Yeah.
Baseball, basketball, football, track, cross country, swimming.
Yeah. Wow.
All those.
What was your favorite?
At different times. My favorite? I probably was, the favorite and the best were 2 different things.
Okay. That's all right. That's allowed to be.
I really miss swimming.
Yeah.
I really liked swimming. I was probably the best at basketball and football.
Yeah.
And I love the swimming. I like the individuality of swimming.
Mm-hmm.
But I also miss just the motion of it. I really like the water.
Yeah.
But basketball, football, baseball, those were just what I did. It was always very competitive.
Yeah.
I was like ultra competitive.
Yeah.
And I think you have to be if
Sure.
you're going to play any of those sports. I mean, especially at different levels, as you go through the high school level and you get through all that, you've got to be wanting to, and I'm sure we'll get to it in the CrossFit. You got to want to stomp all people's throats.
Yeah.
You've got to want it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to want to win, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
you have to want to
that's-
win. Yeah, that's what it comes back to. It's
no one likes to lose. You know,
No.
I mean, let's be honest. And there's obviously certain teams though that unfortunately, someone has to get beat, right?
Yeah,
and
yep.
it's a cultural type thing, and I'm sure it sounds like you guys were pretty successful, and a lot of like teams, I feel like in this area have that tradition, and it's like you have your occasional bad year, but I think you see that throughout sports, like such as the prominent, the Patriots. I hate to say it, but they're king of the hill right now, and it's bred into them. Like they just expect to win.
Yeah.
And I guarantee Tom Brady's probably one of the most competitive people on the planet. So, and you can kind of correlate that some to CrossFit with Matt Frazier and Froning whenever he was doing individual and so on and so forth. But not to get too far out. But yeah, I agree. If you're playing team sports and high school, whatever level, you got to want to win. So
Absolutely. So how do we transition from obviously if you're talking about high school, go away to college, and there's obviously a pretty big chunk there where we're not necessarily doing a lot of competitive sport, and then you find something like CrossFit where I think for a lot of high school, a collegiate, any athlete, anybody that has an athletic background, that's a huge draw. I think is you get this. Again, individuality, but you have a huge community sense, but the competitive spirit is like, oh, there it is. I missed that, and it's dangerous. You flirt, you kind of toe the line of getting too competitive. And I think you may have even got there a little bit.
So the CrossFit journey is very interesting for me because you're right. You guys have seen the ebb and flow of so what some people don't know is I actually went to CrossFit Hustle for
way back in the day
for like 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
And it was because it was close to work.
Sure.
I worked over off Mineola, and they were up there by like Laser Craze or whatever that wedding reception place.
Yep.
Anyway.
Receptions, the other receptions.
Yeah.
The one you didn't get heavy reception at.
So Rich Voss was the guy that ran the place.
Who lives up the street from me, by the way. Hand to God, he like showed I was cutting my grass, and he pulled up and said hi, and he lives like 5 houses up on the right.
He's a super nice guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is like circa 2010, 2011, right?
Yeah,
Right around there.
I mean, it might have been around. It was.
Had to be
it's 4 or 5
2011.
4 or 5 years ago. It's like right around there.
Yeah.
And the reason I guess I went was Jay Vaughn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I went and tried it just because I got tired of running. I was running. I kind of like to run for some weird. I think I like the pain of it. But you figure out. I had never in my life done a clean, never done a jerk, never done any of these technical weightlifting. And when I was talking to you guys about doing the podcast, so I started listening to a couple of the podcasts. The first day I did a pull-up.
Yeah.
That whole presidential physical fitness all through high school, middle school and stuff, I bet you I was number 1 or number 2 in every single thing.
Yeah.
And I could not do one pull-up to save my life growing up.
Yeah.
Never. And I never got that certificate
Yeah.
because of the pull-up.
Yeah.
Right.
But now it's
funny you see that transition, especially as an adult too. I think that's such a exciting and huge draw for CrossFit is, again, I just call it skill learning. I mean, you're literally learning a new skill for your body, and especially when you talk about those basic movements, your pull-ups, your even handstands. Squats aren't super sexy for a lot of people. A lot of people like the big swooping gymnastics and muscle-ups and things like that. But I mean, it's a big deal when you are, for lack of a better term, people who think their life is over athletically. And then you see this big spark, especially because how old are you now?
I'm 40.
40. So you found this at 35, 34?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, right around there.
So, I mean, for a lot of people, I think you get past the age of late 20s and you're like, well, start a family and, athletically it's over. And you've given a big breath of fresh air to a lot of people. When you step into a gym, you can be competitive and push yourself. And you may not be competitive on the national level, but you're going to be doing things you never thought you could do before. And
I
case
agree.
in point, pull up.
Pull up.
And I've watched you snatch 205, and I've watched you clean 275. And again, that's coming from someone who stepped into a gym 5 years ago, never done a clean before. You know, A, that just shows you that it takes a lot of time, patience, and effort. But B, showing that you can really, really improve yourself. It doesn't matter what stage, you know, quote unquote, that
Sure.
you think you are in life.
Yeah. And then we come in, meet you guys at, I guess we'd call the second Covington gym. I
Oh,
don't know- I
yeah.
don't know.
So you went from hustle, and then...
And then I came to the 6 a.m. class down there with I think it went from 12 people to like 25 people for a solid year.
Oh, yeah. That was when we'd have, prior to any computer system. So I remember how many days, like Mark and I, or Emily and I, or whoever was coaching, just like one person literally running a warm-up and the other person just writing down names. Just on the board.
Yeah, that's
just
exactly
writing
what,
down
yeah.
names. Because there's 30 people going.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And we're mid-squat cycle,
Yeah.
you know.
But it was okay.
It was a lot. Now I was just gonna say, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Well, and again, it goes...
But it was the same people every day.
Oh, man.
That's it. That was...
It was great. I mean, there was a lot of energy in there. I mean, when you're looking at, you got 8-9 different squat racks, 2-3 people to a squat rack, and people were just getting after it. And that's you know the whole under the through line with CrossFit, right, is the community. And that's one thing. Anytime you get someone new in here and you're showing them around and stuff like that, and it's like, look, the one thing I can't put in the words that you just have to experience for yourself is the community, is the interaction between the people. You know, it's like I would love to sit here and tell you I'm the coolest person in the room, but I'm not even close. It's all the people here, and that's obviously why we kind of put together this little podcast. But there's something to be said about training by yourself in your garage and then training with 27 other people. You're going to push yourself a lot more.
Both have their
Absolutely.
upsides and downsides.
Yeah.
You talk about swimming, having that solidarity, having that time to yourself. Like, I love that. Believe me, like, I love coming out here to myself, lifting on my own. But like Mark said, I'm not going to go hard on something like a Helen or a Diane, you know, those workouts that those benchmark workouts, if I'm not around a group of people.
Oh yeah, I mean, when I read the email, because you guys send out the programming preview, it's enormously helpful. It doesn't tell you what the workout is, but it's going to tell you kind of what you're going to do that day. And most of the times when I see it, I was like, okay, and I know what my work schedule is going to be, or where I'm ebbing and flowing and doing all the things. I was like, okay, that's when I have to get to the class.
Sure.
Or that one, I can, like today's workout, I can do the days on my own.
Yeah.
But I also know what I can and I can't do.
Right.
There's certain workouts that was the chest to bar snatch workout from a couple weeks ago. Mm-hmm. I knew I had to come to the class for that, or I had to quit in the middle by myself.
Yep.
It was terrible.
Yep.
But
And then every now and then you get a one-on-one with the coach, like we had that day with 50 shouldered overhead.
Oh, wow.
With the burpee. That was
Wow.
That was a whole new experience, I think, for Chris.
yeah, that was a lot of fun. Hopefully that girl that's going through the intro class is still here.
That's such a good story. I hope I can give it some justice. But basically, our 8:30 class isn't always the fullest, and this day in particular, the workout was hard. It involved burpees and
It was 50 shouldered overhead at 155 pounds for the guys, and every minute on the minute you had to complete 5 burpees.
yes. So I had a day one intros, younger girl, really sweet, super soft spoken, just really nice, down to earth, showing her around, putting her through a day one, and Chris is the only person in class. We're running both the classes at the same time, so somewhere in the middle of the workout, it was starting to get, the fatigue was setting in, so to say.
To set the scene, Chris knocked out 12 shouldered overhead in the first minute, did his 5 burpees at the minute mark, went to pick the bar up on the second minute and went,
Oh boy. Oh boy.
And then at some point in the workout, I was like, we were having a conversation, me and the on-ramp girl, so it was relatively quiet, and you just hear Chris drop the F-bomb about as loud as you can imagine. And I just looked at her and I was like, sometimes that happens.
sometimes you have days like that.
Sometimes that happens.
Oh.
So we're kind of go backwards a little bit. So moving through that that second location you were at. So we go
Yeah,
the
so-
Hustle to Covington, and then I think, did you take time off after that?
No, so what I did was, and I guess you want the CrossFit journey story now.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, I mean,
or how, because
we'll
it's
kinda
been
track
because
back
I
and
started
forth.
because I was trying to think about it this morning. No, what happened was, I guess not really what happened, and I'm sure you guys are okay with however I go about this.
Yeah.
The CrossFit Covington gym moves to Newport.
Mm-hmm.
Not conducive for me.
Yeah.
To get to because at that time, I mean, really, in all reality, these exercise, fitness, however, whatever you want to call it, things like that, they have to be in your functional path. They have to be for me. They have to be
Convenience is king.
convenience. That's what and getting to Newport wasn't convenient for me anymore. Not to mention, you at that same time, you guys are going to Florence, okay? At 5:30 a.m. There's a big difference between 6 a.m. and 5:30.
Yeah.
It took me, so I switched over, and obviously came out to the Florence location. That 5:30 a.m. just crushed me for 6 months.
When your central nervous system is not awake, like there's just stuff that isn't firing. Like again, Mark came in at 4:30 this morning. And maybe there's times where if you get a good night's rest, like okay, I can do this, but let's face it, real life gets in the way. And
I don't think that'll be a daily occurrence.
Right,
but
exactly.
It was a new experience.
yeah. So I think when your CNS is not firing, you're not awake, you just feel like you're just trudging through mud when it should be something you're doing much better at.
Yeah, and I think and at that same time, the kids are 2 and 3. I mean, that whole period of my life, even my mom still talks about it. It was all hands on deck. It was, jobs. It's just life. You're trying to get that.
Which is what you should be doing.
Yeah, it's a tough place to squeeze things in. And I would say it wasn't last winter. It was the winter before. I was in my mind. I'm like, I need to lift as heavy as I can. I need to. That's where the focus is. That's what it's all about. We got to be,
I remember you kind of coming to me, and we had a small discussion just about how you were ready to go to the next level.
Yeah.
We had a discussion, and and I'm all about that. I find it admirable and awesome, but it's a very tough transition and very tough to mentally put in the time, physically have enough time to do what it takes to get to whatever next level you're trying to get at.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you see that with a lot of. You can look at the games. Look at how the transition has gone in the games, and you see some of these people who are around for a long time, and by no means are they not fit anymore. You just see younger people who have unlimited free time, or people like Matt Frazier who have made a ton of sacrifices in their life to get to that level. Matt lives at home, correct?
I believe so.
Yeah, I mean, lives at home when he's now making probably the most money he's ever made in his life, training in his basement, because that's what it's going to take to get him there.
Oh yeah.
So
I remember that conversation. It's like, how do I get better? How do I really get better? How do I really get strong? Not that I ever had this vision of being a CrossFit regional athlete or something like that, but I was like, if I'm going to do this, let's
jump in.
Let's be
Sure.
good. And then,
I love that, by the way. Sorry.
What's that?
I said I love that question. I love that mindset. Like, how do I get better?
Yeah.
I feel like that's something everyone should kind of ask themselves daily. Like, how do I get better today?
Yep.
And it's one of those self-development things, whether it's your mind, your body, whatever it is. But having that self-reflection in your sense, to where, like you said, hey, I've been training for a while. I've bounced around a couple different places. I'm ready to take it to the next level, and I know I need to seek, some of these trainers' help, and in particular Coach Baston, who's obviously knows what it's like to kind of compete at a high level.
Yeah, but then you figure, then you actually, what people don't realize, and I think a lot of people If they're newer, the amount of time, the amount of work that has nothing to do with what's going on here at the gym.
Yeah.
I mean, and really, if you're going to be really, really good, yeah, of course you have to get in here and do what you're supposed to do, but then you walk out of here and you're going, okay, I've still got to get the kids to school. I've got to, I've got to work.
Yeah.
You know, or I've got to do all these things, and all the same while is I got to eat. I've got to get this much food in my mouth. I've got to get this much sleep. I've got to drink this much water. I've got to do all these things, and then it takes over your life. And not that I'm not at all pretending that that's where I was going, but then I start thinking, I've got to really start getting strong. I've got to start pushing myself harder. Well, I got to the point of I was really, really, like, not that I'm not strong now, but I was doing really well. But what I was doing is I was crushing myself at the first part of those mornings. And I had nothing left in the tank for the workout.
Yeah.
You know, the part that you probably should be concentrating on.
Yeah.
So I start breaking, my body starts kind of falling apart.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so many pieces. That's amen to that. Cause and it's awesome that you saw that. Because so many people don't make that correlation that, like, we tell people all the time, especially people coming through our fundamentals program, where it's like, the more you do, the more upkeep it's going to take to continue this. You know, if you work, and practice what we preach. I'm not always the best at recovery. I try and do maintenance, but for a lot of times we don't see that maintenance period until it's too late, till we see injury. And like you said, like, my body was breaking down because physically you can't put in the time you need to put in the gym, plus recovery, plus take care of your family, plus do all the work you need to do to take care of family, and like I said, real life gets in the way. And that's the beauty of the hour that we have in this space. I mean, that's why we make it an hour. We need 1 hour of your time, 1 hour a day, make that sacrifice. We do the proper warm up, we do your workout, and we do a cool down surrounding whatever we need to do for the day. And like, that's the key to what we're asking a lot of people, is like, if you can just give us an hour, we can make you that much better. The option is there if we want to take it to the next level. But again, this is the steps that it will take. Are you willing to take that sacrifice?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are surprised by the answer whenever, they asked us, how do I get better? As in a sense where I want to take this to the next level. It's not this like fun, sexy answer where we're like, all right, we're going to put you on this small off squat cycle and you're going to PR by 50 pounds in 4 weeks. Yep. And so on and so forth. It's, look, man, you got tight hips. We got to get you on Ramwad, or we got to, you got to do yoga, once a month, or whatever it looks like. But it's usually stretching, nutrition, and maybe one additional workout 3 times a week.
Yep.
Or whatever that looks like, and meeting these people where they're at. But yeah, it all ultimately does boil down to goals and then priorities. And like you said, hey man, I'm married, I got a couple kids, I got a serious job, I got a great strength base, and I need to work on this area here, this, that, and the other thing. So it's really just breaking all that down. And then, well, Chris, it looks like here, with all the stuff you have going on, it requires 27 hours a day. All right. There's not 27 hours in a day. Exactly. So what do you want to cut first? Is it going to be sleep, or is it?
Yeah. Yeah. And again, we've had many discussions about how important sleep is.
Sure.
Are you allowing yourself enough time to recover, like, in the sleep cycle?
Well, I think that's why I'm doing better now.
Yeah.
I'm getting more sleep now over the last year since I changed jobs.
Yeah. It's a huge difference.
Oh, it's enormous difference. The class times that I attend are different.
So when we go from this, okay, now my body's breaking down, I'm losing it kind of thing. Like, where's it? Because I feel like we had the big, like, drive up, and then I don't want to say you just dropped off, but there was definitely a time where it was like, okay, something's got to change.
Well, the only solution I had was I had to get out of it completely.
Yep.
Because I was sitting there going, well, I'm not going to not go, and then of course my wife's like, you just probably need to take some time off. Like she could see it that it was just not working.
Yeah.
So, took 2 or 3 months off.
Yeah. Yeah. And
came back and
as a trainer and owner of this place, and it's why it's awesome to talk to you guys about this kind of stuff, because from an outside view, you're like, you were doing so well, why did you stop? And from a guy who doesn't have kids and isn't married, wasn't at the time, especially at the time, like wasn't in a very serious relationship, it's like well, why are you doing it that way? It doesn't make sense. But then you start to put all the pieces together. Understanding that story makes such a big difference, and that makes a lot more sense. It's kind of like Mark's analogy. You get 27 hours a day at work, and you can't do it, so something has to be cut.
Oh yeah, I think one of the things you guys have always, Mark, you've always said it, is priorities. What are your priorities? What are the priorities of life? And I can tell you right now that exercise, fitness for me are kind of like 3, 4 on the depth chart.
Yeah,
sure.
And the first 2 really outrank 3 or 4.
Yeah.
So, but it's fun. Like I want to say like ever since I came back, but it's been probably about a year now. My attitude's completely different. But also I have the luxury of, I know how to do I can do all the movements, and the movements I don't want to do, there's a sub for it. I have no problem scaling anything. And
amen.
And it's I mean, you could some of the folks in here, it's like some of the newer people, I'm like, I know exactly where you were, because you see some folk, you might see me, you're gonna catch me on one day where we're gonna put something over our head, we're gonna do like shouldered over, like clean, like push press or something like that.
Right.
If you're new in this gym and you come in, you're gonna work out with me on that day, don't want to go with me on that day.
Yeah. But then there's other days where like, hey, I'm going to take a step back.
100%.
And that takes experience.
Sure.
Like there is no substitute for, especially there's a lot of males. It's mostly males. And we'll just
Ego.
It is.
It's ego.
It's total ego.
It's I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to crush everything. And it just takes being crushed to really understand, like, oh, today's the day I'm going to back off. Perfect example was Monday when we did the first workout for the Masters. I was not feeling great, and it was not like that should be a workout I do great in, but I just backed off because there's no way that I was going to be able to go at the level that I can normally go at, because I know I've listened to my body at this point.
Right.
I say that one of the analogies I use with a lot of people is about in regards to CrossFit, it maps your body. So for me personally, I'm a puller and a squatter. I'm not a presser. So if I was working out with Chris on overhead day, I would want to pack my lunch kind of thing. But at the same time, I'm not going to let his weights influence mine, because I know what I'm capable of. And ultimately, yes, you need to push yourself a little harder. That's how you get stronger. That's how you get fitter, for sure. But I'm not going to go into it with, hey, if my max is, 200 and Chris has got 300 on there, I'm like, all right, Chris, let me try that one time, and then break my back.
Right.
It's one of those things where, for me personally, whenever I started CrossFit, 2010, 2011, I was like, I'm going to the games. And it didn't take long for me to be like, I'm not going to the games, and it was, but the cool thing about that though, for me personally, was I was all right with that. It wasn't like, oh, I'm devastated. Like my identity lied with me going to the CrossFit games. No, it was like, dude, you've been a pitcher in baseball your whole life. You played football, you played basketball, you've enjoyed relative success athletically, but all that combined gave you really, really tight shoulders, not to mention you bench press, a lot all the time. So it was like, hey man, you really have to work on your shoulders. And there was a time there for me personally where I was like 2 years of just shoulder pain, MRIs and all this stuff. And it ultimately, was that self-awareness where I didn't get on that mobility bus early on with CrossFit. Recovery was like laughable.
Yeah.
It was just like, I'm going to go in there, work my butt off and go home. And it wasn't like I'm going to foam roll after, or I'm going to hit some bands or some mobility wads or whatever it was at the time. And, one of my goals was like, hey, I want to be able to snatch, 250 or whatever like that. that's not one of my goals anymore, because I know, ultimately the risk reward for me personally, getting back to priorities, obviously we own the gym. One of my biggest goals right now is to grow the business and have a sustainable living through the business. I just got married recently, so I work at a gym, and I don't have enough time to work out some days because I am so just engrossed with the business and trying to learn new stuff and study and grow and communicate. I don't have kids yet, but I feel like the gym it gives me a pretty good indication of what it's like, but I also have to try not to let my sole identity be in the business. Like, if the business is doing good, I'm happy. If it's not, I'm sad. So I have to, ultimately I have a higher identity than that. But so I think going back to, kind of what you were talking about with, your goals change, over time.
And I think we talked about it, the choices that you make along the way. Like,
Sure.
You talked about football, baseball, basketball, bench pressing all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Those choices you made back then, you
Sure.
have to realize that those are going to affect you here,
Yeah.
and those are what we would
Mm-hmm.
consider still healthy choices, but it's still going to affect you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, again, I was a soccer player. I never squatted. It's taken me 7 years to squat properly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still working on it. Those are choices I made being young. Like, I already run. I play soccer. What do I need to
You
do
don't
this
know
for?
what you don't know.
Exactly.
If someone would have been like, Mark, at 7 years old, you shouldn't be throwing the ball this much or this fast. And
Here's the exciting part, though.
here's the repercussions whenever you're 30.
The knowledge that has been built in the last 10 years on sport fitness, the recovery aspect, basically training these kids harder but smarter, is astronomical from where it was when we were younger.
Sure.
And the exciting part is what you all were talking about before we started recording was a kid, 17 years old, snatching 291, and clean and jerking 350. That is relatively unheard of at that athletic ability 10 years ago, So I do want to go back to Chris, though, since we just completely got off on a tangent. So
Enough about you.
Yeah, enough about me, enough about Mark. We are here to talk about Chris. So the cool part is we have seen this, I would say, a major transformation in you, just as far as your attitude in the gym. And again, I think you barely said it, but fun. Like, that is so like that's why when we started this, it was fun. It was exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And then it becomes almost a burden because you, again, and this is definitely my case, and I feel like
But you guys live in it. I can, and
Well,
you guys, your evolution through the business part of it and learning all of that, and it's
But the key is you got to come in here and have some fun with some people. Like, this should be a time where you come in and, like, damn, like, that was fun. That was a good time, because what we're trying to do is playing the long game. And if you can't enjoy it, you're just going to leave.
and you
You're not
can
gonna stick with it.
see that you're playing the long game in just how the daily workouts have evolved. It's when you guys did make the transition, and I don't know if everybody probably noticed the transition.
Oh, yeah.
But
Our membership numbers notice the transition.
it's there are still a lot of workouts where it's like, that was terrible, but my game is, let's go really as hard as you can, give what you got, but you got to make it back the next day.
Yeah. Well, I think you said too, like, for a while you were, well, I'm going to lift as hard as I can, and then I'm dying on the workout.
Yeah.
Well, that's how it works, is people are crushed, when you have this part A, part B. And I'm not saying you can't do that. We have had those days. Mark and Derek are about to go to their L2 here this weekend, right? Yeah. But the big thing they talk about is that intensity. So if we're in the middle of a snatch cycle, and you're doing snatches Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then you're doing a Metcon right afterwards, if you're going hard on some lifts, it's real tough to go hard on a workout.
Oh yeah.
So, and I think that evolution you see, and I'm not saying it's always going to be like that. That's where we're at right now. But we've seen the intensity pick up, and we've seen PRs through the roof. We just had a back squat day. Granted, we haven't back squatted in a while, but we saw, I was there for the 8:30, 9:30 class. So for the first 2 classes, there was 12 PRs.
Well, something definitely, I noticed it, as recently as 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So it's the vision in my mind is the chest to bar snatch workout that we did a couple weeks ago. You come in, you go, okay, the final weight's 205. There is no.
Oh, it was like 8.
It was 8 chest to bar pull-ups, and then the ladder up the
10, 8, 6, 4, 2.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I was like, okay, I know I'm not going to get the 205. We'll do it at 185. And even in the back of my mind, I'm like, that's not happening. But really, I was like, the snatch, I'm not really so worried about. What I was worried about is the chest bar pull-ups.
Sure.
I did every one of those in sets of 2 or 3. Every one. I've never done that many in my life.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you walk out of here that day, I was like, okay, so we're getting better.
Right.
This is where you want to be. Of course, you walk out of here. There's no glamour about it. I'm past the point of first rule of CrossFit is you always talk about CrossFit. I talk about it with the people that I work out with, but it's I don't know. But the fun part about it is where you talk about intensity. I think that's what, once you get into it and once you start doing it, it's going to reel you back in. And it reels you back in because you can't recreate the intensity of group fitness within the gym. And what's neat about this gym is a lot of like-minded people when in regards to just wanting to be healthy, wanting to do the best they can. At least in some of the classes, I'm gonna try to get to like the afternoon classes, like the later afternoon classes. I've never been to a 4:30, 5:30, or 6:30
like our
class.
secret spy, and then you tell us the difference between them.
No, yeah.
Like there's different mentality at each one of those.
I agree. You just go to come to the morning ones.
Yeah.
There's different mentalities. It's a lot of fun, but that's just what keeps me coming back. And you guys don't yell at me.
Yeah. And that was a big transition too. Like there's a difference between being the hammer and being the cheerleader, and you have to find the happy medium between both. We just talked a little bit ago and downstairs, and I just did the quick math. I don't know where it came from, but I was literally doing it on the way here, and it's 10,000 hours to your expert level, and I said, if you coach 20 hours a week, it's 20 hours a week. That's about as maximum as we've kind of found that you are effective. You can coach more, but effective coaching, about 20 hours a week. You're at not over 9.5 years before you master the art of coaching, and again, that evolution that I've seen with Mark, I've seen with myself, I've seen with Chris and Derek, and everybody's growing each and every day. But like, man, my day one coaching is laughable compared to where we are now and to where I want to go. Like, I want to be able to look back now and look at all of us and, wow, like, can you believe we were doing that? Because it has to be an evolution. That's where we see us progress in here, because I think, you have to be that cheerleader. You have to be knowledgeable and skillful, but you also have to know when to put the hammer down and push somebody. And that just takes, again, time and reps. It's just like anything else. You're exercising your ability of empathy. You're exercising your ability to just build your knowledge base, and you have to be able to build that kind of rapport with all the people in the gym.
I need to go back a second.
Yeah,
when I said
please.
Like-minded people.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different folks here.
Oh yeah.
I don't want to say that everyone's the same. When you say that, it's like, I put everybody in the same bucket. There are so many different professions of people that come in here. What I mean is everyone wants to be here, and everybody wants to work hard. That's where I meant the like-minded part, because you actually have to want to be here. You walk in the door here, I mean, again, if you've met me and you've come to a class with me, I've either not spoken to a soul, or I'm like, oh right, good job, here we go.
Yeah,
It's a ebb and flow kind of thing. If for a couple of years I may not have even spoken to anyone in the class just because I haven't woken up yet, and not because I didn't want to, but everybody works their butts off. That's what I meant. It kind of, when that came out, I was like, oh, that kind of came out wrong.
Yeah.
So
it's just
go
to
back
what,
and
it's
correct
just
myself.
to what level. It's just to what level you're pushing yourself.
Yeah.
You know, I always tell people when they start, it's if you're standing here and you're 25, if my grandmother was standing next to you, we need to go through the same movements. It's just to what degree. You know, you may be squatting with weight, the other person may be sitting down into a chair, but it's just to what degree we're actually moving. You
Absolutely.
know? And all of it's important. It's just that where are you at in your life at your ability? And understanding that and accepting that this is where you are. I'm not saying that you're accepting it like, well, this is where I'm always going to be, but you have to accept the starting point and then push forward.
Sure.
It's huge.
Most people's first class doesn't even involve weight. It's air squats, push-ups, and sit-ups or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
That's the first
and
workout
it's
I ever
devastating.
did.
It's devastating.
You know,
if we did that in a class, it would be devastating.
And again, it
Yeah.
goes back to that magic word is intensity. And I think another magic word I like to use a lot is that self-awareness. Whenever you talk about like starting, this is where I'm at. But some people think, you know, they're not really there. So they might perform a movement and it just doesn't look great. All right. And they're like, all right, let me put a little more weight on and let's try one more. And when you say like, don't do that, they're like, what do you mean don't do that? Like,
Right.
you know, I got the last one. It's like, if you do that again, it is a high probability that you're going to get hurt.
Yeah.
You know, so it's realizing that, like in the moment, to trust the coach. And I think that's one thing when you know you got to be a lot of different things as a coach, and building rapport is so vital. Just because ultimately you guys are entrusting us with your well-being to a certain degree, obviously within these walls. But yeah, I mean it's staying positive day in and day out, because you're going to have your workouts that are just like, whew, man, that was like the most humble thing I've ever done. And it can piss you off, or it can really, light a fire sometimes, where it's like, man, I really need to work, on handstands, or I really need to work on this, or, it's sometimes, obviously everyone doesn't stay. People leave for a lot of different reasons. But I think one of probably the most popular ones are people just can't come to terms with like not doing things.
Yep.
It's like, I can't do this. Like, the word that constantly comes up is I'm embarrassed. I feel embarrassed. Like I can't. It's like,
or I need to be in better shape before I come to the gym.
Yeah, that's a classic one.
Yeah.
But the embarrassing comment comes from like, I can't do a legless rope climb. It's like, yeah.
Yeah.
Go talk to Chris. He's been here for 4 years. He doesn't rope climb.
Yeah, well, and that's fair, And again, you have to have your own perspective. But I really truly believe if there is that magic number, whether it's 60 days, 90 days, after you get over that hump of, hey, you know what, this is where I'm at. These guys are showing me the proper progressions to get where, some of these other people are. And I just got to stick with it. I just gotta show up. I have to make these little lifestyle changes.
Yep.
And then good things are gonna happen. And again, whatever that hump is, but you're one of those people, Chris. You got over the hump. Obviously, you're here for quite some time, and you're still performing at a high level, and your attitude is awesome. So,
one of the last couple questions I want to ask is so we've seen this transition, I think, mentally in CrossFit. Is that paralleled like life and work as well? Like you've had this kind of like, big up, big down, big up, big down, and you're kind of finding a good place. Is that parallel a lot with life, or is it?
I think it parallels a lot with life.
Because it sounds like, again, you're at a job now that you're sleeping more, you're getting more rest, and I think that you see that a lot with.
I don't have a boss that. So over the last 6-7 years, my boss has always lived in California, and the previous role I was in, I'm pretty sure that man never slept. And he had no problem calling me at 8 or 8:30 Eastern time when it was 5:30
Here.
West Coast time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
so getting emails at all hours of the night. I knew that I was going to wake up to 4 or 5 questions that he probably wanted an answer to at midnight.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I mean, and what's funny about that is he's probably the nicest guy you'd ever meet.
Yeah.
That's just the way he was wired.
Yeah.
And while now it's people talk about cultures of companies that say, you know, what we want you to do is get the job done.
Mm-hmm.
Might take you 80 hours this week, might take you 30 hours the next week. Life is about balance. Life is about, you know, finding that, getting it done. What's exciting now is I live in that culture, and they believe it. And the demands are still there. The pressure to perform is still always there, but it's not 24 hours a day on minutia to I'm trying to find the right words. You're able to
busy work.
Exactly, the busy work. Where in reality it's like, okay, hey, Chris, this is your job. This is what we expect of you. This is what the result needs to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Find it. And that's the world I lived in for 8 or 9 years. That when I was first out of school, it was like the guy that owned the company says, you're going to make a mistake a day. You're going to make 100 mistakes. He goes, here's my only advice. Don't make the same one twice.
Yeah.
He goes, I don't care if you make a choice. He goes, just make the choice.
Yeah.
And do it.
Yeah.
So that's...
I think that I can definitely see that parallel in the gym, where I probably enjoy your job more because like till you come in and you're just enjoying this more, and you are where you're at. You're still making improvements, but you're not going to kill yourself over small stuff.
No, it's not. And over the last year, here in the gym has definitely, it's gone from here to I feel like I've again, it sounds dumb, but I feel like I've gone to another level on a lot of things that we do in the gym.
Uh-huh.
Now there are still a couple things I really struggle with, and I probably should work on those.
Mm-hmm.
One of which I'm going to try to climb that rope before the end of the year.
There you go.
There it is.
There you go.
So
You said it.
That's a
I know.
fact. You heard it, guys. It is August 16th.
We'll
is that
find
today?
it. We'll get it done before December.
All right, there we go. So the last thing I want to ask, Chris, is in a sentence or two, what is your definition of fitness? Because you've had it's changed a lot for you. So I'm sure right now it's one thing, but it could be something else, either prior or later down the road.
So the definition of fitness, which it's not a singular word, anybody could. Really what I want to do is I want to set example for my children. I want to set an example. I want to be able to be functionally able to squat down and catch that ball that my son is pitching right now. We do it every night in the driveway. We mark it off. And to be able to run and do those things, because I'll tell you what, if I'm not doing them now, there is no way in the world I'm doing them in 5 years, because time's passing us by.
Time's undefeated.
Yeah, so it's exactly right. And everyone, unless you are just been a crazy super athlete your entire life, which a very, very, very small percentage of us are. We've all had those points of, I'm out of shape. Man, this can't go on. And even in the last several years, I've had those points where you ebb and you flow, and you drink too much, you eat too much, you whatever. But the definition of fitness is just being able to exist and just to be healthy. I don't know how that kind of sounds weird coming out of my mouth, but it's about being able to play with kids and be around for your family, because
those are your number twos, where your threes and fours are the gym.
That's all it is. Yeah, the number ones and twos are the kids, the family, my job, and then it's down the road. I mean, that's why you, when people listen to this and they have no idea who I am, it's because I'm ebbing and flowing, and I only come to a certain class or whatever. And I might, if you've seen me on a Saturday, I mean, I'm coming in and I'm maybe walking right out, because more than likely I've got just like a lot of people here, soccer game, baseball game, softball game, all these things that we're doing. I got to coach basketball or something. Yeah. But those are all the things. I tell everybody I live in a family of 4 and I rank number 5. That's how I see myself. There you go. So it's good. Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
It's good stuff.
Appreciate it. I think it's a great place to stop, guys. Thanks for listening to Everyday Athlete. Join us next week as we dive deep into the lives of the people who make us great. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Thanks.